Sorry.
Okay, cool. Hi, Esther. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Of course. Yeah, I've been following your work for a while, and the work you do is so incredible and inspiring. And I'm so excited to learn more about your story and the impact you've had on your community. And just, I mean, you've been all over the world doing these incredible interviews and photo shoots and everything. So um, I know that your impact has been made, but I'm excited to hear too where you plan to go and if you have any accomplishments that you're hoping to make.
Mhm.
So I guess I'll just kind of let you get started with how you got started doing the work you're doing.
Yeah, I think it really started in 2019. I was really reflecting on my body, throughout like when I was young, I was always really insecure about my appearance, about my body hair. And I think at a certain point in high school, I decided to start working on myself, but I still felt a lot of hatred towards my body. But I wanted to work on my self-esteem because I was very shy and insecure. So I started doing that first. And it's when I got to university and like college university that I started really questioning why I was removing my body hair and for who I was doing that for. Because like my family, like my aunts, my mom would always say like you have to suffer to be beautiful, like beauty is pain. And those were things that I just didn't understand, why I had to suffer so much just to be like acceptable in society or be deemed as beautiful. And so having to do like electrolysis or like painfully remove my body hair, and just like it's really when I kind of noticed that my body hair was growing back faster and like thicker, and it felt like I was getting way more body hair. That's when I started to feel really afraid. And I really, oh, like every time I saw myself like in the mirror, like naked when I had to take a shower, I would always feel like crying. I would always cry because I was like, oh gosh, please, like God, make a miracle. So like all the body hair could disappear. Like, why did God make me like this? And so I didn't quite understand. And I would always like, honestly, I would imagine like this magical cream that I could use to make the body hair just like disappear. And I would imagine all these scenarios where I would like, be normal, quote unquote. And so, yeah, that's kind of like when I kind of like started questioning, like, why am I removing my body hair? And like, why is like my body fighting back in a sense because I'm removing it and it's growing back. So that's really when I started noticing these things. And like when I got to university, I saw like, okay, I'm really hairy now because I kept removing my body hair and shaving, and made me really like hairier. And I was like, okay, I'm really tired. I need to stop because the more I remove it, I'll be even more hairy. So I really didn't know what to do. Like I was doing a bit of electrolysis, like on my chest area, on part of it, and like on my face. And it was just extremely painful, and it would burn so much. And I remember like when I was at my esthetician, she was always like asking me like, are you sure you don't want to remove it completely and all these things. And I was starting to really work on my self-esteem, on my appearance, and starting to be like, you know what, I'll just have to accept it because I can't really do anything. And so once when I removed it completely, I felt like I wasn't myself, like I was now normal and it wasn't me. And so that's when I started noticing the work that I had done had actually worked, in a sense that I wasn't feeling any shame anymore towards my body hair and towards my chest hair specifically. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't feel like, oh, gross, like I don't want this, or oh my gosh, why do I look like this? I wasn't thinking that anymore. I was just like, yeah, I have chest hair. So I started liking it over time. And then it's really in 2019 that I was like, you know what, I'm an artist. Like I was always painting, and I've studied in art since since I was in high school. So I always like, art was like a medium for me to express myself because I was really shy. So it was really easy through painting. And I remember having a moment where I really expressed the way I was going through, and when I was thinking about beauty standards and like, beauty is pain. And like I had painted this self-portrait of me like having this flower coming out of my back like painfully, and just thinking about like just what it means to be beautiful, and the pain that I felt I was inflicting on myself. And so in 2019 I was like, art is the medium that I always use to like express myself. And I feel like now that I accept myself and I accept the fact that I'm hairy, and I embrace my chest hair, I can create a project to kind of like talk about that. And that's when I kind of created the Lavender Project, like in the summer of 2019. I created this project where I made this lavender colored dress, and I showed my chest hair for the first time and took those pictures like at a park near my place, because I felt like nature and body hair was something I always kind of like started connecting in my work, in my artworks. And so I really just thought it was a perfect setting for my photo shoot. So I did that, and I started posting that on like social media. And I remember the first picture I posted, I was so scared. I turned off like my Instagram and I just waited for a few hours. I was like, oh, I felt so nervous because at the time when I accepted myself, like nobody knew I was hairy, like none of my friends. That was something I was hiding. I was making sure to like, I would barely go swimming because I didn't want to go through all that time of removing my body hair and then getting ingrown hair and all that process. And I just hated, I just hated shaving, but I just had to do it. So I would just be like, no, I'm not gonna go swimming, and I would just not wear certain outfits. And so once I posted that picture and I went back on social media, I was like, okay, you did it. It was the first step. And then I continued posting the rest of my project, and like with poetry and like just like a model that I had created called like Power. We were our body hair class. And so I was just wanting to like kind of think about changing the narrative when it comes to body hair, because we were taught in society that body hair on women is like ugly, unhygienic, but like no one really questioned what, like, why is it unhygienic or ugly on a woman, but it's okay on a man? We're not thinking about, oh, that's gross on a man or unhygienic. So it didn't really make sense. And so we had to like, I felt like I had to kind of challenge these myths that we were taught that are obviously not based on science, but mostly just like beauty industries like propagating these ideas so we could like shave all the time, not really like never questioning why we're shaving and who we're doing this for. And so yeah, so through that project, I wanted to change the narrative around body hair and to make it look like something beautiful. I felt like photography was very easy to digest, like especially on social media, because you're seeing this at home and you're seeing this probably with your friends and family, so you could start discussions. And I thought this project would be a project that would help people start having these conversations about body hair and femininity and what that means. And like, if a woman has body hair, why is it not seen as feminine? Why is it automatically seen as masculine if women just grow body hair? And so I really started to do that like through that project. And it's really after I got a lot of comments, like women sharing their experience with their body hair, sharing that they thought they were alone, that I kind of understood that the project had become bigger than me. And that, when I created that project, I called it a self-photography, self-liberating project. So like just to liberate myself, to remove this weight that I felt. And to me, my chest hair was like a big secret that I was keeping from the world. And so I had finally revealed it. It was done, and I felt, a sense of freedom. And so when these women were sharing their experience, and like around the world, like some people in Europe and like, and in North America and things like that, and like in the continent of Africa. So that's when I was like, okay, I need to to keep doing this, because this is really something that I needed, but obviously other people need that too. And I can't really just ask for representation all the time. I have to like, in a way, create it myself. And so obviously social media is one of the best platforms to see all types of diverse bodies. And so I knew that like I could use that to kind of like show body hair, show my body hair, but also show it in a way that, I'm wearing whatever I want and I look good. And I think it's really important, because often we're scared when we're hairy to like wear a skirt and things like that. We're scared that we might look strange or ugly, but it's not true. And that's really something that we have to unlearn. And so I wanted to show that through the way I was dressing, through the way I was posing, because I was like modeling at that time. And so that's what I wanted to do through the project, and continue to do through my images, and like also in my art. I felt like the need to also represent hairy women in my paintings, and since then that's what I've been doing.
It's so incredible. And thank you. That's a beautiful story. And I think it's interesting too. I was just thinking about how there's this emphasis for women to have long hair on their heads too, but shorter hair elsewhere, and how that's kind of reversed as often for men. Were there any, when you very first like made that first post and started really opening up to the world about having body hair, do you have any memorable first reactions that were just overwhelmingly positive, to where you were like, oh yes, this is something that I need to continue doing?
Yeah, I had one girl who had messaged me and was like, "Oh, I was looking at your project and like I never questioned why I felt like like chest hair was okay on a man, but not on a woman. I felt like it was gross and all these things." And she's like, "I just love your project because it really made me question that and like try to like think about my ideas that I have like, internalized." And so I was like, I was really happy because she's not a hairy person, but through that project, she kind of started to realize these ideas that she had and like just thinking about like what, a woman with body hair, what that means to her. And like it's not actually, ugly on a woman. It's just that she was taught that. So I was happy that someone could share her ideas and like share what the project, like the impact the project had on her.
That's incredible. And I know, so you've done some modeling too for Glamour UK and a few other incredible magazines. And given that the beauty industry is the one that, is largely enforcing these ideas around certain types of bodies and body hair, what has it been like to be a model and interacting in this world that's kind of controversial to what you're working towards?
Yeah, I think that in a way, I think that I'm trying to like I'm trying to formulate my sentence. But I think that like the beauty industry or maybe like, magazines and now are kind of trying to go with the times and they see that things are changing. So they're trying to like go with the wave. But obviously there are people there that are also, want to create change, but then there are people who are against it. So I feel like it's like a mix, but they're still trying to like, I guess, introduce this taboo because we're obviously there was like Ashley Graham who challenged the woman with like the curvy body and all that stuff because it was seen as like not desirable. So there's women standing up and saying, what, I love my body. And so I guess that's also body hair is a huge taboo on women, and so they want to slowly start introducing it. But obviously like the change is very slow because it's really strongly ingrained in people to the point of like people getting so frustrated and angry when they see like a hairy woman. And so it's really, really strange. But I think it's, working with these like, magazines and things like that, all I'm thinking is that someone will need to see this and will be, really positively impacted by those images. And so, obviously whatever magazines do, obviously they're still promoting, shaving and shaving brands, but as long as we get to see women who choose to like let go of that, of the shaving and all, and going through all these processes, that are just painful. And so as long as they see this representation, I think it's still going to be important and still, it's still something that will be impactful because at the end of the day, it's not about telling women to stop shaving. It's about showing them that there's an option to embrace yourself fully, that you don't actually need to shave. It's not necessary. And so I feel like for some people, what they've shared with me, like even recently, this girl kind of told me that because of like seeing me on social media and seeing my images, it made her feel not ashamed anymore of her body hair. So like if she saw 2 hairs, 3 hairs, or a bit of hair growing on her legs, she didn't feel like, oh, I need to shave right now. She just felt like, yeah, I have leg hair, and she doesn't feel that she needs to shave, but she'll do it if she wants to tomorrow or whatever, but it doesn't feel like a need. Because I remember growing up and being in high school, as soon as there's 2 hairs, it's like we're all kind of so nervous and anxious. Like all the girls like, oh my gosh, we have hair on our legs, we need to remove it, we need to remove it. Like, and I remember a time where I had like a fashion show and that was like before I became a body hair activist. So and my legs were extremely hairy and I forgot that I needed to shave my legs. So I was like on my way and I was like, no way. Oh my gosh, I forgot I didn't shave my legs. And then I went to the bathroom and I used kind of like this kind of I don't remember what it's called, but it's like to like kind of like cut your eyebrows. And I
Tweezers?
just, yeah, exactly, like a tweezer. And I just used that on my legs. And I was just in the bathroom doing that. And it was like hair all over the ground. And that, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot to shave. And just thinking about the panic, thinking about all these moments that I was going through that were so like unnecessary. And so yeah, and I think that's kind of like the reason why I do what I do. I really want people to feel more comfortable with their bodies and to really see that they have an option. Because I didn't see I had an option. It's just that I was like, you know what, I'm tired of shaving all the time. I'm tired of like trying to like destroy my body just to be, you know, the ideal woman. And so that's really when I was like, you know, I'm done and I'm gonna create projects around that.
Oh, that's such a great story. And I feel like so many young women of all ages can relate to that. I've definitely had those tweezer moments where I'm like, oh no, this is all I have left. And I have to painfully rip out hair by hair. Like that's bananas, that's the amount of fear that we have around our body hair translates to being willing to put ourselves through so much pain. And also the idea of, I don't know, I think I started shaving when I was probably 12 or something. And it was because other girls in the locker room in my gym class were like, you need to start shaving. And I didn't even know that that was something I needed to do. And then giving these girls razors, you know, to use on their legs. I mean, I still cut myself almost every time I shave, a few times that I do a year. But I also, yeah, having this option of sometimes I'll go months without shaving and then sometimes I'll want to shave. And it was a big transitional period to be like, oh, this is an option. I don't have to always be shaved. And it's not that it's not sanitary. That's just that story really hits home. So have you heard of other projects? I know that you're an incredibly talented artist and you work largely in the art community as well as modeling. Are there other projects that you've heard of that you've inspired to be more body inclusive, whether it's in the painting community and people being more like, it's not very often that you see a lot of body hair in paintings, even older paintings. So
Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand the question.
sure. Are there other projects or other just like people that you've inspired to create other artwork or any kind
I've inspired other people.
Mhm.
I have no idea. I don't know. I know that there was like a person that, because I had an exhibition that just like ended, and this person that came to my exhibition and told me like they've been following me and like they wrote a thesis about like, you know, how body hair is intersectional and it doesn't mean like you could be a man or a woman or like non-binary have body hair. So I was like, oh cool, I'm part of like your you know, your essay, that's cool. But I don't know who I've like personally inspired unless they tell me. So I wouldn't really know.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I definitely, I thought that you would have some stories of people who have been inspired to create work or something, but I mean, at the very least, you've inspired me. So I know I've shared this with you, but I figured I'd share it here. So as you know, I have this fun apparel line with different diverse chests and breasts. So this says diversities. And I just worked with my designer to redesign it in a even more inclusive and fun way. So we have like a nipple piercing, some lactation, tattoos or pasties, nipple hair, and then this one in particular you've inspired this one. And so you can see a female chest with some chest hair on there. And so I'm so excited to have this on here and also to be able to go to my events and talk with people more about the work that you do and hopefully encourage other women and people across the gender spectrum to be loving of their body regardless of any shape or hair or however it comes. And especially throughout life, like I talk with a lot of people who wish they'd done custom sessions, but they think that they're too old or that their breasts are saggy or something like that. And so it's beautiful the work that you're doing, and I'm so grateful for everything that you do. I know that we're about done with our interview time, so I just wanted to end by asking, well, one question I had was, is there something that, oops, is there something that you like a goal that you have or some kind of accomplishment that you're aspiring to? Like, would it be, I don't know, having body positive or body hair models at Fashion Week or in the Victoria's Secret runway or something like really iconic like that? Do you have anything in mind like that where you're like, that would be really cool if more body positive people were in that realm?
I think that when I think of like when I was growing up, a lot of like negativity around body hair, I had seen it in like TV shows, like the girl with the mustache or the unibrow and how she was shamed. And so I feel like when I'll start seeing like really hairy people, women in TV shows and movies, and it's not like people insulting them or making them the butt of the joke, I think that's when I feel things have truly changed. And that like that would be the greatest progress, I think. And even like in magazines, obviously in fashion shows, that would be amazing. But especially in magazines, and to see not just, you know, hairless women, but to see just hairy women too. And it's not seen as something like, oh, today we're representing like hairy women. There's just, you know, it's just normal representation. Like, hey, there's a hairy person there, there's a hairless person there. It's not seen as something, you know, weird or directly targeted, you know, so just like normal.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I know that you're an artist. Do you have any upcoming shows or anywhere that people can see some of your work right now or in the next?
Yeah, I have an ongoing show where I'm showing like three of my paintings at like at Longueuil. So it's like it's a bit further than Montreal, but it's like I think it's like 20 minutes away from Montreal. But yeah, it's at the Maison de la Culture of Longueuil. And I have a show in November, but then I can't really say much about it yet. So, so yeah.
That's okay. I'll follow up and ask you, and I would love to share more about so people can go and see and support your work wherever it's being showed in person and online. So thank you so much for your time today. I'm going to end this recording real quick.